Well, the Raiders suffered their first loss of the Antonio Pierce era this afternoon, falling to the Miami Dolphins 20-13 in Florida, dropping their record to 5-6 in the process. Eddie Paskal hanging out with my guy Brice Butler in the fifth quarter, presented by Twitch. And Duffel, we look at today, right? And we'll zoom out and we'll go into the nitty gritty in a little bit. But you zoom out, and the Raiders lose 20-13. But they keep one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL to 20 points. The Dolphins only score 6 points after the half, and this feels like one of those games, Brice, that was there for the Las Vegas Raiders, but unfortunately they just didn't do enough to secure a road W.
Yeah, Eddie. We've been talking about it all year. The defense has been doing what they need to do to put the team in a spot to win the game. And today, I don't think we took care of the ball enough. We didn't, convert enough third downs, and we did not convert red zone entrances or attempts into touchdowns. And today, we needed that. We needed those scores. We needed points on the board. We only needed 21 today, which is a lot. It's not a lot to ask for, going against a team like Miami that normally puts up plus 30 a game. And we just didn't get it done today.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the red zone issues, which we'll get back to in a second. 4 for 14, right? Not going to get the job done, especially on the road against a high-powered Miami offense that you said, like you say, can put up points in a hurry. But I kind of want to zoom out before we zoom into today, right? And we were talking about it before we started rolling. Like, I'm not a big believer in the moral victories, right? Like, this is the NFL. These dudes are all getting compensated really nicely. Big dogs, adults, have families at home. Like, they're
Right.
not worried about, oh, yeah, we played this team tough. Like, look
Right.
how well we did, right? But I think that if we look at what the Raiders did now, this is the third game
Right.
with Antonio Pierce. And candidly, the first two games that the Raiders won, to their credit, were against, I want to say it delicately, two teams that aren't going to be playing in the postseason, right? Two
Right.
teams that are not going to be major factors in the Super Bowl this year, in the Jets and the Giants. But now you go to Miami, and you look at this Miami team now, a team in the upper echelon of the AFC, to your point, a team that puts up a bunch of points, a really quality football team, and it doesn't mean a whole lot, but the Raiders played them tough on the road. And so I don't think this is a moral victory, but I think that it changes the perception of the Antonio Pierce Raiders maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you saw we looked at it before we started. Tyreek Hill
Yeah.
said Antonio Pierce has definitely changed the mentality of this team. So, like you said, the perception going into we're playing the Raiders next week is going to be like, nah, like these guys are playing. They have got good players on paper. Their defense is stacked. And obviously they will be saying all we have to do to keep their offense under a certain amount of points. If we can get to this point score or whatever, we'll win. But it's not like they're coming into Allegiant or playing the Raiders at all and being like, this is an easy win for us anymore.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Antonio Pierce wanted. We heard from him post game. He said, like, that's what I want this team to be about, right? Hard nosed, no, nothing easy, right? No, 3rd and 1, it's hard. And I think that we look at what this team did offensively, and look, we'll talk about the defense till the cows come home, right? They're playing incredible brand of football
Yep.
again. Like we talk about it. If you're keeping Tua to 20 points, and Tyreek Hill, who did get his numbers as we pull them up real quickly, Tyreek goes at 10 catches, 146 and a touchdown, right? I mean, he's all pro, he's all everything. We were
Yeah.
talking about this afternoon. A dude who's probably going to go for 2,000 yards this year. But, I think when we look at the struggles for the Raiders today, Brice, for me, it's always going to start with the run game, right? Like, we have talked from Jump Street, from day one of this Raiders team, even when the previous regime was here. When the Raiders are successful offensively, it's when they can control the line of scrimmage and run the ball. And since Antonio Pierce has come into town with Champ Kelly, they have said the same thing. We want to be tough, hard nosed, not a sexy brand of football in
Okay.
2023. And Josh Jacobs goes 14 carries, 39 yards. They finish the afternoon with 36 total rushing yards. If you are a team that wants to be a run first team, that promotes that says, this is who we are, you can't go on the road, run for 36 yards, and expect positive results.
I think some of that has to do with let's just call them rookies per
Sure.
se, right? We got Aiden, rookie. We got AP and Bo Hardigree, rookies, right? At the head coach and the offensive play caller situation. So I think from what I saw, like I spoke to you earlier, I was like, I felt like they abandoned the run early, thinking that kind of like being like fearful of like, maybe Miami, spreading out and, running it up and
Yeah.
scoring a lot of points early. But I was just like, man, like they're still there. Like the game has never been, you know, out of proportion to where like you can't still run the game, still run the ball. And I feel like, and coach said it. He was like, our man only had 14 carries. That's not enough. Their brand of football is going to be hard nosed, impose our will on our opponents, and you're not going to impose your will on your opponents by only giving your cash cow 14 carries. And I just feel like today, Um, Knowing the offensive firepower that they were going up against, I feel like they got a little nervous and kind of abandoned the run earlier. And like you said it as well in the presser, we don't want to put that much pressure on Aiden. So I think, already before even watching the tape, they know maybe we tried to put too much in Aiden's lap today, and we failed him by not giving JJ the ball.
When here's an example of that, right, Bryce? Where the Raiders, the split today on offense is 41 pass attempts for Aiden O'Connell, and they ran the ball 16 times.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
not. That's
now
not
we go
really
back
good.
to last week where it was much different, and they had 32 runs compared to 27 pass attempts for
Right.
Aiden O'Connell.
50-50
That to me is the
basically.
number, right? Like the 50-50, the even split, even running the ball a little bit more than they're passing it. They brought it up on the broadcast a few times that, hey, they're only running the ball 30% of the times as opposed to like the 50 for the past couple weeks. And I think that we talk about wanting to protect the rookie quarterback, right? Wanting to put in position to succeed. Well, dropping back 41 times, I don't care if you're Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert, like that's hard to do in the NFL.
Right. Yeah, I mean, then again, I think today, just showed us how much respect they have for Miami.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe they came into it thinking like, hey, we're probably going to have to throw the ball more. Like we may be behind in this game. So if you could see like a lot of the play calls were just predicated around passing the ball. And I think, when we got down a little bit early, and when I say get down, like we weren't down much.
No.
It was like 10-7 or whatever. You know what I mean? So, um, I feel like they already kind of just had a feel like, hey, these guys are going to score a lot of points. Like we have to push the ball downfield. We have to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands and get it down the field to be in the situation that we want to be in a close game. And today it was proof like they didn't have to. Like they were never too far ahead. Our defense played great. We had 3 takeaways. Trust in the run game. And then, in a game like that, if you're still running the ball, like at the end of the game, you'll be able to do more things offensively because you're not one dimensional at this point. I feel like at the end of the game, we were like sitting at, we're just going to pass the ball.
You brought up the 3 takeaways, which is awesome, right? But the flip side of that is 6 points off turnovers.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think especially in a game like today where you're like, we're gonna need every single point we get, right? Like field goals are great. Like I'm a big advocate of special teams and team take the points, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But like you knew going into today, you got to get touchdowns, right? Even if your defense balls out and plays really well, which they did, we're gonna have to get touchdowns. This isn't gonna be a game that we're gonna win 10-7, 13-10, right? You need to get points on the board. And unfortunately, the 6 points off turnovers, like, leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say after that. Like, you have to score points, especially when you get those takeaways, man. Like, those things don't come that often in this league, especially coming from that team that we just played and we got them early. Have to be able to take advantage.
You have to, and I think that it's easy for us now to sit here after the game and talk about what could have gone right or what went wrong, blah blah blah. But I think for me, one kind of series, one moment that really kind of stands out to me, and Antonio was asked about it in the post game, was kind of the conservative nature of that end of half, right? Tick 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 on the clock. Raiders go, have a couple timeouts, ultimately settle for a field goal, right? So 3 points is better than no points.
Right.
But to me, Bryce, that felt like one of those moments where like, okay, let's get a little greedy here.
Right.
Let's get a little something going into
Right.
halftime.
Yeah, and I mean, he said it again, right? He was like, he doesn't want to put too much on Aiden's plate, right? He was like, that was just protecting our quarterback right there. Because I think we spoke about it a little earlier, like when Mayer had the incomplete pass that they
Yeah.
said it was like a fumble for a score.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yo, like those are plays, especially with a quarterback like Aiden, like you do not want because mentally, he can be like, dang, they just turned like they got a takeaway and they took it for a 6. And now that's the first series of the game and it changes your mental. And it's the same thing I think that they were thinking of, like, in the end of in the first half, when they were like, hey, let's not force Aiden into making a bad decision because we are getting greedy. Now I feel like, and I'm sure we're going to get to it, I wish that they would have they felt the same way going into the fourth quarter at the end of the game, kicking those field goals instead of going for it on fourth down. But I'm going to let my man here take the lead on
Yeah, like you said, man, a couple of moments, especially in that second half, where we're all sitting in the studio having the same debate that I'm sure the coaching staff is having and the fan base is having at home. Okay, do you go for it on fourth and short, or do you take the points? And for better or for worse, right? Philosophically, and no one cares about what my football IQ is, but like unless it's like a blowout situation, right? Unless it's like we talked about earlier, you're down 21 and a field goal gets you to 18.
Right.
It feels like you got to take the points, especially in a game like this where your defense is playing so. And I understand kind of the flip side of that, where you're like, our defense is playing really well, but how much longer are they going to hold up?
Right.
But like for me, take the points because then that kind of changes the back half of that fourth quarter a little bit.
Yeah, you always take the points. I mean, you want to protect your guy. You got a young quarterback in there. You don't want to put too much on his plate. You have one of the best kickers in the league.
Yeah.
He's automatic, dang near. Take the points. And the reason why, I'd say take the points is because now it takes some of the pressure off you in the 13-20 situation. When you're like, we have to score a touchdown. And on the flip side, it makes Miami more stressed and a little tighter because they're like, oh, we're getting 3 and outs. And now they have the ball. We're only up by 1 point. And all they need now is a 50-yard field goal attempt to win the game. And now we lose the game. So now every little yard counts. So now if you give a 15-yard corner out to Devontae, now like the corner, oh shoot, dang, like tighten up. Now you might not breathe right. Like there's a lot of things that like go into that. And so yeah, I agree with you. Like I'm not the type to where, you know, like you have to know your risk. Like you have to know what type of risk you can take. And I feel like with the way our offense has been playing, in the last, the amount of points that we put up the last month and a half, whatever, we're not putting up enough points on call, if you
Yeah.
will.
So
you
this
need
is my point,
points.
right? And we're all saying the same thing where it's like, with all due respect to the Raiders offense, even the past 2 weeks, this is not a team that's putting up 35, 40 points a game.
Nope.
Like it feels like there's moments where you don't have the benefit of saying, nah, we're going to pass on these 3.
Right.
Like when you have an opportunity to put 3 on the board, you take your opportunity. You kind of roll the dice with Carlson, which is a pretty good bet these days, and say, hey, 3 is better than 0. And we saw that at the end of the first half, right? But like it is such a delicate balance. It is such a hard thing to navigate. But we talk about it, and now hindsight being 2020. The Dolphins scored 6 points after halftime.
Yeah.
This is not, and this is an explosive, Tyreek 8. This is a really, really good Dolphins offense. But at the end of the day, they scored 6 points after the half. So you got to tip your hat to the Raiders defense. And it feels like to me, Brice, in those moments where you say, you know what? Defense is playing really well. We're going to live by the defense. We're going to die by the defense today. Let's go and take the points.
And that's what we should do every week. We're not a sexy football team. We're a nasty.
And Antonio Pierce is fine with that. He's
Yes.
totally fine with that.
We're a nasty football team. We're grimy. We're pirates. We're coming to get what you have. We're coming to burn the boats, and we're taking everything. So you should take it that same way when you have opportunities to get your points. You take what you can get. You're not trying to be greedy. Take what you can get. Win those games. Win by 1. Win by half a point,
Yeah.
damn near.
And for me, it's like I think that as we zoom out a little bit, I almost feel a sense of, I wouldn't say calm, but I feel like good about the fact that to me, this kind of reinforces the Raiders' identity in 2023, right? Like Antonio Pierce talked about it, right? We want to play gritty, we want to play ugly, we want to establish our tone at the line of scrimmage. Well, they did that for the first 2 weeks against teams that, like we said, with all due respect, aren't going to be really playmakers coming down the stretch. But they found the recipe for success. And like I said, even when the previous regime was here, when they found success, that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
Now today, you get away from that a little bit, right? Josh only has those 30 some odd yards. So like, okay, when we're cooking, when we want to be who we want to be, we have to run the ball first. So I don't want to say we had a deviation from the identity, but to me now, it makes it crystal clear. This is who your 2023 Raiders have to be if they want to win football games.
You got to keep it going. You got to, switch it up on the run game a little bit, give different looks for the same runs. But Bo's been doing a great job calling plays. Like you can tell he's not nervous to call plays. So not saying anything about that. I just think that today, when they look back at the tape, they're going to see, hey, like we should have ran the ball more. Like this is just who we are. This is what we're going to do. We were never down enough. We were never down enough to where it was like abandon the run, pass it all game. And as a player, even when you're Devontae, you know what I'm saying? A guy that's like, I need my touches, and you're supposed to give him his touches. He understands that as well, too. He's like, it's going to be easier for me if JJ is getting off. So, like, let's make sure we get the guy the ball. So, I think moving forward, they'll watch the tape. They'll learn from this. Like I said, man, Bo, Aiden, AP, all in the same boat. You know what I'm saying? They're all rookies trying to work it out together. And, they're going to learn and just get better from there.
I think you brought up a great point too, Brice, where this is a game that never was out of reach, ever.
Never.
The biggest margin that the Dolphins were ahead by was 7.
Right.
Right, that was it. And so, like, even if you understand, like, hey, if you're down 21-3 to the Chiefs, okay, we kind of got to get away from the run, right? We got to go out there, we got to sling it, we got to start putting some points to the board. But when you're only down by a touchdown, I think you bring up a great point about when they go back and they watch the film on the flight tonight, they're gonna be like, okay, there were still opportunities for us to run the ball. There were still opportunities for us to be who we want to be. And for whatever reason, A, B, C, D, or E, or a combination of it all, we kind of got away from that. But with these games left on, kind of on the schedule, let's go back to that.
Yeah. They will. No doubt, especially when we get back into divisional games. I think we have the Chiefs.
Yeah, we've got the Chiefs next week.
We're gonna do what we do best. AP seems like a guy that's resilient for sure.
Yeah.
So he's gonna be like, hey, he's been saying it. He's like a broken record. Our identity is ground and pound, and he said it in the presser. We didn't do that. I know next week you can expect JJ's gonna have 25 touches, unless the game gets crazy out of hand early, which I don't see it doing. See it happening. We're gonna get back to what we do. Don't put too much on Aiden early. You don't want to have him dueling it out with Patrick Mahomes. And then like a game like today, I'm hindsight. Like how you like to say,
zoom it out. Yeah,
zoom it out a little bit. You don't want to be in a situation when you're going against Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard. Like we're trying to throw the ball 30 times against two of the best corners at getting takeaways.
Yeah. And I think that, we talked about the Chiefs a little bit, is that, what's a better kind of rehearsal to play the Chiefs than playing another really explosive, dynamic, timing-based offense on the road, right? So you take the lessons that you learned today from the defense, right? You shift them on to this upcoming Sunday back at home, and I think it'll be a really exciting game. In terms of other things that were exciting and it felt like worked today, Duffel, it feels like that Aiden O'Connell, Devontae Adams relationship is growing, maturing. Devontae finishes 13 tackles. That'd be something. 13 targets, 7 catches for 82 yards, and a gorgeous, fantastic 46-yard touchdown. And it feels like that is a relationship that week after week, series after series, half after half is getting better, right? And we heard from Antonio a lot. He says, look, I'm no dummy. When you got the guys like Devontae, you figure out a way to get them the ball, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, I think this all ties into what we've been talking about. I mean, first half we scored points. Second half we didn't really. Did we?
No, nothing after the half.
We didn't score any.
Nothing after the half.
If you look at how we start the games, you see that we're starting the game in which we're we're playing into our identity.
Mm-hmm.
We're running the ball. Then we have Devontae. We have to get Devontae the ball.
Getting Michael Mayer, getting the tight
Michael
end.
Mayer involved. He had the first catch. He did his thing,
Yep.
right? So he's getting involved a lot early. And then the second half, today at least, we kind of abandoned our identity. Now Devontae's not catching as many balls. Michael Mayer, I don't remember him catching any in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
I know Hunter had a big play.
Yeah, which is great to see.
Great to see 1-3 have a play like that. It's been a minute. Keep doing your thing. Keep grinding. You'll be back to the fold soon. But we go away from our identity in the second half, and then the playmakers that typically make plays aren't making plays. And then you have 3rd and 3s and 3rd and 4s, and you're giving it to JJ, but JJ's a little cold, and we're not running the ball the way we were, and then we're getting stops. Or we're getting stopped, and we have to punt the ball, or we're trying to go for 4th, and we're not getting them as well.
Let's just go to talk about 3rd down, Brice, right? We've kind of danced around it a little bit. The Raiders, 4 of 14 on 3rd down, right? You're shooting 29% on 3rd down on the road against a really good, explosive offense. Certainly not a recipe for success. 3rd down is it's such a big beast in the NFL, right? On offense, you want to convert on 3rd down. On defense, you say, just get them off the field on 3rd down. Like, what do the Raiders need to do to be a little more successful on 3rd down?
I'll tell you right now, I know exactly what it is. It's stand above the chains or stand in front of the chains. You're getting behind the chains because there's a lot of penalties, Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys remember watching the game, the first few 3rd downs, it was like 3rd and 12 because we had a penalty.
3rd and 17.
3rd and 17s. Yep. It's all those. There's not many plays that Bo Hardigree got in his play call sheet that have 3rd and 15 beaters.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not too many of them. At that point you're playing for field position, right? So minimize the errors, like the mental lapses, the mental mistakes of having those penalties, or not making a play where you're supposed to make the play. and then it will give you third and threes. It will give you third and fours. And like typically, you're going to make more third and 1 to 5s than third and 6 to
Sure.
12s. It's just what it is. And I guarantee you, if we had a stat that we could pull it up right now, out of those 14 third down opportunities we had, I guarantee you more than half of them were more than third and 7.
And I know we sound like a broken record too. Hard to do with a rookie quarterback, and that is no
Yeah.
slight on Aiden at all. That's
No.
just the reality of where he is. He's a young dude in the NFL now with a handful of starts under his belt. You got to continue to put him in positions to succeed. You can't ask him to do too much. We talk about throwing the ball 41 times is a lot for any quarterback, especially a young dude on the road. But I think that. What was exciting for me today, Brice, and we talk about kind of the change in perception. We talk about the fact that, yeah, no moral victories, but this team, when they flew east, something that you know way better than I do, is really hard to do, right? It's hard to fly to the East Coast. It's hard to play in that 10 a.m. game or that 10 a.m. slot and be competitive. And we were talking about Miami, too, where you have some of the other weather kind of
Yeah, it's
factors.
hot.
Yeah, it's hot.
Humid.
It's
cold
hot.
here.
Yeah, it's hot, humid. It's cold in Vegas,
Yeah.
but it's hot out there. But I think for me, the fact that we saw that resilience from the Raiders, right? The fact that we saw no heads hanging, right, when Aiden throws a pick. The fact that we see kind of the continued guys building each other up and hyping each other up. And look, like, to zoom out again, right, Brice? The Raiders had a chance to tie or win the game with 2 minutes left on the road against a really good Dolphins team, and I look at that as a positive.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to say it again. AP has changed the mentality of this team.
Mm-hmm.
The mental fortitude of that locker room is high. Um, I see it going differently if, McDaniels was in there, not to throw shade on the man. But I feel like if we would have got down going into halftime playing against Miami, you know, you would have saw a different sideline.
Yeah.
There was never a moment that we were watching that game up there together where we didn't feel like we could win the game. And I don't think we felt that a month and a half ago, earlier to win the season. So, the team is moving in the right direction. I mean, we lost today, 2-1 AP. Like you said, no moral victories, but we're moving forward. We're going to learn from today's game, and I don't see nothing but, great progress going forward.
Yeah, and certainly a tough test this upcoming Sunday. The Raiders back at Allegiant Stadium to take on the Kansas
Big
City Chiefs.
division
Big-
game,
big
baby.
division game. Big, and AP's first division game, right?
Oh,
Because-
yeah.
Yeah, because we got 3 games now under his belt, right? The 2 New York teams and then Miami today. So AP very East Coast focused
Yeah.
for the first month of
Yeah,
his
that's
tenure.
true.
And now it's time to take on the AFC West, Bryce. But before we get out of here, man, there was a moment that I thought was really funny, and I wanted you to talk about it. Was after, I forget which interception it was, and the Raiders get the ball back, and I was like, Bryce, just take a shot. Just take a shot. And tell me, so like when you were in that situation when you were playing, what did you do when you got in the huddle after a big turnover?
I'm running I'm running over there. Like I'm running. First of all, I'm going to get my helmet. So you got to run to get your helmet, and then you got to run over where the offense huddled up, to get ready to go. Obviously, there's excitement. The morale is high. The momentum is on your side. I'm yelling. My coach used to be shot. Like let's do it. Like let's take Tyson Fury right now. You dazed them. You're smelling blood. Throw it over the top. Make a big play. Reverse something that they're not expecting. I've always been against. Now you can't do it every time, but I've always been against handing the ball off like right after like a turnover or a takeaway. Like let's do something exciting.
Ride the wave of momentum a little bit, right? And we talk about, right, and I think you brought it up and said it really, really succinctly and accurately, is like, yes, Aiden is a rookie quarterback. Bo Hardegree is a rookie a rookie play caller,
Yep.
and Antonio Pierce, a rookie head coach. So that to me feels like one of those moments where we talk about, hey, we're going to watch the film on the flight home. That to me feels like one of those moments to say, hey, we had the momentum.
Yep.
We forced the big turnover.
Yep.
Let's let it rip. See what happens,
Yep.
right? Because worst case scenario, it's 2nd and 10 now. It's 2nd and 10. Duffel, before you leave, though, we look ahead ever so briefly to Kansas City a week from today. Outside of the Raiders getting back to their identity that we've talked about running the ball, controlling the clock, establishing themselves at the line of scrimmage, what do you want to see from the group going against a really, really good Kansas City Chiefs team next weekend?
Hey, I mean the Chiefs have always been good, right? They obviously have the best, I would say, the best quarterback in all of the NFL.
Very fair.
Patty Mahomes. But the team offensively, they don't look the same, and that's great. For our defense. Our defense can stop anybody. Like we proved it today. We can hold you from scoring points. Our defensive backs are playing solid. Obviously, we know that man that's just huffing and puffing, coming to blow the house down every play,
Mhm.
which is Max Crosby. I think we will be in a very good situation to beat the Chiefs next week if offensively we play perfect sound football. Obviously, we're not going to be perfect, but we have to play the game. Let's do something different next week and put up 35 on the Chiefs
I would love that.
and then let the defense do their thing, like play free and do their thing. So I'm excited, man. I don't think, honestly, we have to do a whole bunch different. Like, just do what you know is best for our team. And I think AP knows that. I think, like we said, they're going to watch today's tape and be like, yeah, like, we can't get away from what we want to do. And I think they can do it against the Chiefs. Chiefs defense is solid, but they're not like that nice to where it's like you can't do nothing
Yeah.
against them. 95 is cold. But if we're running the ball, we can eliminate him. You know what I'm saying? We can eliminate that. Like, if he's not pinning his ears back, getting after the quarterback, take care of the football always. I think our special teams is great. Our punter just he puts the ball down there, dude. We can, obviously we can make any field goal. So don't change anything up. We ain't calling for y'all to change anything up.
Yep.
We love the way the team is playing. I think today we just felt like we needed to do something that we didn't have to do. And just know that we don't have to do that to win games. We have a good football team.
100%. And I think for me, like on top of everything you said, is figure out a way to take away Travis Kelce, right? Travis Kelce, it feels like the 2 times that he sees the Raiders each year are his 2 biggest
Yeah.
games of the season, right? This man is a machine. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He's crushing it. All the same. You got to figure out a way to take him away. You got to take a way to minimize him, or at least minimize him, I should say.
I know how to do that. I'm gonna cut you off real quick.
What
I
you
know
got?
how to do that. Allegiant, just don't allow Swift to come.
Yeah.
No
Lock her
tickets,
out.
No tickets to Swift. She ain't coming to the game. It'll kind of mess up Travis. She'll text him during the game like, "What the heck?" It'll mess up his focus a little bit. He won't have as many yards and catches.
Love it. You can shake it off. He can do whatever he's got to do. Duff, on our way out, man, where can the people find you? I know you are everywhere on the globe these days, but where can people follow along?
I'm back on Instagram, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, that's right. You're back. Welcome back.
I was out. I couldn't get in. I'm back. Brice with an I_Butler on all the socials, the X, the YouTube, whatever. I got some traveling coming up, so I'm going to make sure I give you guys some dope content as well.
Yes, and always good to see you. We love it when you're here in
Always.
the desert. We love when we get to hang out with you virtually, but being here in Vegas is a little bit more fun. So hopefully we're all having more fun a week from today when the Raiders take on the Chiefs. But all the same, the Raiders fall today 20-13, dropping to 5-6 against the Miami Dolphins. But we talk about it, a lot of football still ahead of us, and a lot of positive things to go into over the last, let's call it 6 or so weeks of the regular season. So for Eddie Paskal, my guy Brice Butler, and everyone else at Silver and Black Productions, thank you for hanging out with us. Enjoy the holiday, Duffel, by the way.
Happy
Thanksgiving coming up. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there, and we will see you guys same time, same place next week for our next episode of the 5th Quarter presented by Twitch.